Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the How Does That Happen podcast. I'm your host, Mark Yaffe, here with the co-host, producer, man about town, Mr. Dave Mancarelli.
Not if I can help it. I would rather be man about my basement and playing video games.
Man in the man
if
cave.
I can do that, yeah.
Why don't you just change your name to Man Cavearelli?
I don't like the term man cave, but I do like the term man cavearelli.
Yes.
I do like that somewhat.
We just shun our guests for a few seconds. We'll just clear up some business. We'll get to a great guest in a second. But Dave and I were just discussing, this is not a really highly organized operation. So I don't know. Did we determine, Dave, what number podcast we're on today?
More than 7, less than 11, I think.
All right.
So somewhere in there.
Welcome to episode 9. And if you get confused down the line, and if anyone listens to 9 in a row anyway, then that's really unlikely.
Correct.
So
correct.
Fortunately, we don't have that problem.
I'm glad they're listening to this one. This is we've talked to a competitive eater. This is sort of like the complete opposite of that.
Yeah. So far, Sky Hoyt is our guest today. Sky is a good friend of mine for many years, and we were discussing this life and foods and stuff. Sky disclosed that he has not been inside of a fast food restaurant since 1968, since most of the 3 listeners to this podcast were born. So
I was born in 1968, yes. And now, Sky, when you say you haven't been inside, that doesn't mean you just used the drive-through, right?
No, not drive-through. I probably have visited the restroom a couple times.
Okay, well, we're going to get to that one too. So there's an etiquette about that.
Making it a dining or eating choice, no, it just doesn't come to mind.
All right.
So Sky has not eaten fast food crap since Dave took his first crap. So that's right. I think that's the bookends right there.
Yeah,
So welcome to the show, Sky Hoyt. Sky, do you want to give us a little quick Sky Hoyt bio about Sky Hoyt?
Well, I was born in San Francisco in 1953. My parents had come from Minnesota to California, and we moved around a lot as youngsters. My father didn't really take long-term employment. I did my formative years, I guess, from 11 to 16 or something like that, were spent in Berkeley in the 60s. The Black Panther Party was the most influential group in my high school. I joined the Back to the Land movement around 1968, moved to Sonoma County. I was there doing nursery business and such stuff like that, and moved to Lake County in, 1987. I was a vegetable farmer there for market gardening for 25 years, and now I'm retired with a disability.
And market gardening, as well as you did some professorial work too, am I right? Did you teach some classes?
That's right. I was a part-time instructor with Mendocino College with agriculture classes. Thank you for that, yeah.
Well, before my backing into comedy and started this crazy lifestyle, I actually interned for Sky. My goal, I was working for DMV at the time in Lakeport, California. So those who don't know, Lake County is about this next county up from Napa. So it goes from
North of Napa?
Yes. So basically from estates to mobile home estates is what the transition would be a good description. So it's an agricultural community with good soil, good weather, economically, what would you say, Sky, economically challenged? Is that a good term?
Well, compared to urban standards, I suppose, and we definitely have some low-income neighborhoods.
And compared to NAFTA, definitely.
The agricultural sectors of Lake County, though, I think have remarkable low crime and great tranquil lifestyle, and
it's a huge retirement population.
Modest income, I think.
Yeah, so I moved there in '87. I think Sky and I crossed paths about, 92, 93? I don't know. And I met him at the farmer's market, and he took a shine to me, as they say. He actually let me intern on his farm, and I did a lot of box therapy, as Sky described it, where his banana boxes were like the big method of transporting vegetables. And Sky had, how many markets were you doing a week during the peak there?
I think one point there we were in 6 markets a week, either myself or employees.
Yeah, so that.
We did many different approaches.
So basically, I saw how hard Sky worked and said, I need an easier job. I'll stand in front of a microphone and tell jokes for an hour instead of working a 60-hour week. And thank you, Sky, for that springboard. And thank you for coming on board today. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So my first question, Sky, is if I have the math right, you were 15 when you sort of got into this organic foods thing, or it's been since you were a teenager that you've eaten any fast food. What inspires you at 15 years old to go like, oh, I'm gonna put healthy things in my body?
When most of us are just starting our junk food.
Right. I was just starting my Arby's addiction at 15.
Well, it was Berkeley in the 60s, and there was a social revolution going on then, and, food and natural food and healthy living were like part of that. And I don't know, that's a great question. Exactly how did it happen? I mean, my brother, one of my older brothers was off into this thing about macrobiotic eating, so it made me realize that there was some sort of diet philosophy out there. But I took a job for room and board when I left home in a natural foods like vegetarian cafe, and that's probably what really got me going on it. And then there were a few natural food stores that were starting, which were different than the old-fashioned pill shops. And I worked in some of those, and I don't know, it just seemed part of the, if you want to call it a cultural revolution that was happening at that time.
Now, prior to that, were you you said your family was a bit transient. Dad moved jobs a lot. Was it kind of the lower middle class, lower income lifestyle where you're eating the food on the go and not the healthiest choices?
Say, we had homes and all that. We weren't homeless, but he would change jobs. He was mainly in government administration. He worked for the Parks Department in San Francisco for flood control in Contra Costa County, and then, I don't know, he didn't fit very well into that.
A career bureaucrat that didn't seem to last a long time in one place. Okay.
No, he ended up being a mail carrier in Berkeley, and they got into apartment house management. So,
okay.
But, we weren't eating like lots of, fresh vegetables or, we were eating, we had, my mother made very delicious cornbread from Jiffy cornbread mix. And, she'd make sloppy joe as a special dish and all that. But no, we weren't a foodie household, really.
Because when you say, your brother talking about macrobiotics and stuff, like that stuff that's the norm, not the norm, but like that's the rage now. Like that's everybody's interested in all this healthy eating and natural and organic foods. But in 1968, that was sort of a subculture, right?
Well, this is Berkeley, man.
Yeah, well, Berkeley was the subculture.
Right, yeah, right. That was the beginning of a lot of that stuff.
I was helping Jerry Rubin stuff envelopes,
Wow.
Then again, this maybe you don't want to answer this too much, but obviously a lot of psychedelic drugs and mushrooms and acid and things like that happening in that area at that time too. Were you into that at all? Was that a part of your lifestyle?
Oh, somewhat, but I quit smoking marijuana for the first time when I was 15.
How old were you when you started?
And then I did it again in my early 20s. But I did a few psychedelics and all that, but it didn't overwhelm me. But I definitely, that was part of it. I think, it's interesting. I'm trying to remember back. I think pretty much about the time I gave up marijuana for the first time is probably when I developed more of a consciousness around food.
Well, yeah, there you go. The munchies and
giving up marijuana certainly helps you to stay away from the Burger Kings of the world.
So you were
probably so. It's a great issue that probably needs research now.
Right.
Yeah. So you're of the age 64?
I hit Medicare this year, 65.
Okay, so you were just at the fast food, or when you're probably in your 10, 11 years old, that was just coming into being. That wasn't, McDonald's is a huge thing.
Yes,
the drive-through didn't exist yet, in very limited fashion. So what was that like?
What kind of fast food restaurants, like what were the main, do you even remember, like when you were 11, 12, 13 years old, what were some of the ones that were the main ones? It wasn't certainly as widespread as it is now, right? There wasn't a McDonald's on every corner.
Doggy Diner?
Yes, I remember Doggy Diner.
Yeah, my memory on this is a little bit weak, but Doggy Diner, I think you're right. There were not nearly as many choices. I think the Golden Arches had begun there in the East Bay, but no, it wasn't like everywhere. I think that's true. There was, I don't know, is IHOP, is it fast food?
No, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's, but yeah.
Well, I guess now everything is, because now you put on your app, you order it to go.
True, yeah.
There's no such thing as,
So you didn't make it wasn't a thing. When Mark first told me about we were going to do this, I thought I was somebody that went, well, I'm not going to eat fast food anymore and made it. But you didn't make a conscious decision. You just started being in that sort of culture in Berkeley there and in that area and working and living in that store. You just it just happened, and then before you knew it, it was just something you weren't interested in.
Right. It was more, I guess you'd call it now a lifestyle choice, I mean, we used to joke, we'd put up a clenched fist and say whole grain, or brown rice, you know? I mean, these were nutritional concepts, I guess, but it was way back. I mean, nutritional thinking now is so far advanced from there, but we were reading the Del Davis and and that kind of stuff, which was sort of the old-fashioned pill shop kind of stuff. But it was an evolution out of that, really. And then and then that consciousness led into farming. How do we grow this food, and how do we make food taste good? That's good for us. And that really is integrated with farming. That's what I came to learn.
So how much
my big
money?
realization about myself and fast food. I'll tell you this story if you're okay with it. I was in the hot tub after working out at the local gym, and there's this guy. He's actually a neighbor of mine, not too far away. He's probably 20 years younger than I am, and he works in county government. And we were sitting in there, and he was talking to his friend, and on the way to the health club, there is this McDonald's that you have to drive by, and they had this big banner out there, and I think it said something like Big Mac's 29 cents or Big Mac's 39 cents. And they were talking to each other about it in the hot tub. He says, "Man, you see that sign at the McDonald's? 39 cents." And then he looks over at me, Frank, the guy. He looks over at me and says, "Guy, you ever had one of those?" I said, "No. I've never been in that. I've never been in that."
So I'm going to give you just a litany, just a quick rundown of some of the iconic fast foods, and you just say, "No, never." Just check.
Yeah, I've never been there. And he looked over at me and says, "Really?" And I said, and I thought, well, wait a minute, I better rethink that. I said, no, I don't know. I don't believe I've never been through the front door there. No,
that's amazing.
No, I don't believe so.
So
and again, he went,
no
really?
McDonald's
And
shake.
the other guy leaned forward and he went, really? And suddenly I realized it was kind of a big deal. And then I said, well, I'm in business, and 39 cents, that price is too low. I look at that.
What year are we talking here?
This would be about when I met you, early 90s.
Well, it must have been some sort of
they were doing a
throwback,
promotion, yeah, absolutely,
right?
yeah, it was a promotional
I
story.
said, that they've probably made too many compromises to reach that price point. That just makes me nervous.
Right, as far as the quality of what you're going to put in your gullet for 39 cents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't seem right to me, But yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't make a conscious decision like, no, I'll just say no to fast food. But, it wasn't like that. But I just really drifted away from it. And I still look at it as kind of suspicious, though I routinely hear these things about how they're reforming and all that.
Yeah.
They're reforming because there's a market demand for it.
Now there's a much bigger movement toward,
And that's good.
Speaking of 39 cents for a Big Mac or whatever it is, I mean, I don't know if there's any way to estimate this, but think of the money you've probably saved in 50 years of not eating fast food.
But wait, this is more. Hold on now. But then we can argue it's more expensive to eat healthy. In fact, I was at the comedy club.
That's a good point.
And one of the ushers there, Marissa, says, "Hey," I said, "How's she's on a real health kick."
Yeah.
She says, "Not going so good. It's just too expensive."
That's true nowadays. But back again, Sky was growing his own food. He was a farmer, right? He was so probably not quite as expensive back then as it was now to eat organically and healthy, right?
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I think if you're comparing home preparation to restaurants, you got a tremendous labor factor in there. I think restaurant food, low-dollar restaurant food, is really benefiting from increased mechanization now. So it probably is even more cost-effective than it was 20 years ago.
Sure.
I'm not sure. You can definitely go out and spend an awful lot of money on stuff that isn't fast food. But if you also, if you eat at home and carefully shop and prepare a certain amount of foods, or most of your food, you can definitely pay less too.
Yeah, I mean, I eat fast food more regularly than I certainly should. if I go in and get something that is going to be filling and I don't order off, the dollar menu or something, you're looking at $10 to $12 for a lunch, with that's just a soda, some fries, and a sandwich. Yeah,
days are gone. So
yeah, maybe those days are over. Yeah,
maybe that's going to push more people to healthy food. Maybe just as the costs, kind of like oil and coal versus natural gas and alternative energy. Maybe there's that whole price point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sort of related story. Over here we have this community radio station. And there's all these people get on the radio station, and they regularly go on, and they go on about, minimum wage needs to come up, and we have to pay workers more, and all this, and they go on about it. And having been a low-wage employer, I don't really support that. But I had this friend of mine, and a longtime friend. He actually met him when I was doing that instructing work with the college, and he says, well, I was down there in the Taco Bell, and you see those women working back there, and it's just terrible. They have to work for, that little bit of money they get and all that. And I said, well, you don't want to support that. What are you doing eating there? I mean, get out of there. Go over to the family-owned place down the street. So there's other issues other than just the food. But,
or how much do you enjoy the food? Are you willing to pay $7 for that?
People want to complain about the wages at Taco Bell, but they want to get a 99-cent taco as well, So.
Yeah. And I don't even know the Taco Bell menu, but it was interesting. It was fun. I just said, if you don't, and I say that to people all the time. If you think the employees aren't being treated right, what are you doing?
Why are you patronizing it?
You really have no choice.
Now, did you have obviously it was kind of the back to the land thing you got into. There was the movement. Did you feel any consciousness like, hey, I don't want to be supporting like a political bent? I don't want to support these mega corporations that are feeding us poison? Was it even that? Was there any consciousness of that type of thinking?
I think that evolved decades later, really. Yeah. I mean, this whole, food system kind of analysis and all that. I mean, the natural foods businesses were really small. My wife just bought a package of Arrowhead Mills multi-grain pancake mix. And if you want to buy a pancake mix, I recommend it to everybody. Its foundation is corn flour. But anyway, Arrowhead Mills was one of the original organic grain, whole grain places down in Texas. Well, I think it was just a couple of brothers, they got together and they had this thing and they had this vision about how they should grow grain in Texas, and they did it. It caught on. Well, now that product, I think they still control the product, but it's sold by this company, Hain Celestial Foods. Hain was like a traditional health food store brand, and I think it's been bought now by some major corporation. So I don't know. It all gets kind of muddy.
It's difficult to trace back to who really is responsible, right? Yeah.
And you think you're supporting, I'm supporting this healthy food product. You think it's originally a family business and now it's been swallowed up by a corporation.
Yeah.
It keeps the labal.
Yeah.
Make us all feel
I'm
by
not
Purina.
Sure that in this case, I'm not sure that the family's not still controlling the product. I don't know that. The product doesn't seem to be compromised. But they probably we bought it at our Safeway store, too. We didn't have to go seek out some co-op an hour's drive away.
Yeah. But you do know,
things
Scott.
have really changed. They've evolved that way. And Lundberg, Lundberg, Lundberg.
Sure.
They were maverick rice farmers in the Sacramento Valley, and they got famous with their rice cakes, and other rice products. They still, I don't know how they've actually evolved through that, but the businesses that were doing natural food, my point, I guess, is the businesses doing natural foods back then were much smaller.
Sure.
So these food system analysis things, didn't get such a big deal until, decades later.
Right.
Maybe around, Y2K or something like that.
Yeah, Dave and I like to do our own cost-benefit analysis. We think all the time we're saving not cooking versus driving through and the lifespan loss at the end.
The time commitment to food preparation and shopping is significant. It is real.
I did want to ask you because, when I knew you, like you said, you're doing 6 markets a week. You're getting up at 4:30 in the morning. You're getting home at 8, 9 at night, and this is all growing season through the end of the market season. But 6, 7 months a year. So if anyone was a candidate to want to drive through fast food and get a bean burrito or a quarter pounder with cheese, you seem like that must have been. Was there a temptation at all to say screw it?
I think there's a temptation to get more restaurant food. For me, just fast food. What I'm thinking of to be fast food just never was very attractive.
Yeah.
We had a mutual friend, Mark Thurston, he used to say that I was an indicator of his quality of life. It was an inverse indicator by how much pizza they ate. When they were buying pizza and bringing it home for the kids, that meant their life was pretty messed up right then.
But the kids were happy.
They didn't make that choice to go buy pizza, and I don't know, pizza I don't think falls in fast food exactly, but it's an interesting thing. So, I mean, that's sort of like home preparation versus restaurant, more than fast food restaurant versus other restaurants.
So you have been to the Round Table Pizza in Lakeport? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And
all right, we're going to have to cancel the whole show today. Right?
Yeah, right. I don't think pizza counts. No, I don't think pizza counts.
But, you know, I mean, I must say, you know, the Mexican taqueria thing has created a whole nother brand of, I wouldn't say fast food, but quick food.
Right.
So simple, basic, you know, understandable menu with, you know, fairly wholesome ingredients.
At least it's real.
Attention, you know, and those are alternatives. Quicker food.
Yes.
But yeah, I think, you know, the restaurant food versus home preparation's an issue different than fast food, probably. For me, it is.
And no temptation, like you're at home, and you don't strike me as the kind of guy that's watching a lot of TV either, probably. But when you see a commercial and they show a big Carl's Jr. double cheeseburger, you know, and they certainly look much better on TV than when you get one. Any twinge of like, I'd like to try one of those?
Yeah.
Well, my wife gets it bad, but I must say the Carl's Jr. newspaper ad, they do a really good job.
They have some good photographers, I'll tell you that, yeah.
Man, those really are, and whatever those names they're putting on them now, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but that one particularly stands out, and I always like to watch advertising and see how it affects me.
Yeah.
You know, irrelevant of what I really feel about the product. If I see an ad and I go, wow, I want to go get that. You know, I like to take note of that because, you know, what is it in this advertising?
What have they? Yeah, interesting.
Works, you know. But yeah, Carl's Jr., I must say, I see those Carl's Jr. ads and I go, yeah, that's true.
So they're doing something right.
I'm reading this book right now by Vanessa Von Edwards called Captivate. And they said the study, this is about TED Talks. This isn't even food related. They said that most people, they would do a study. They kept saying they were rating professors and they would have their whole class. Then they would just show a 5-second clip. They were getting the same ratings. Then they got it down where people were making a decision whether they like something or not in the first 2 seconds. Wow. So, you know, a lot of this advertising and stuff we're getting is like, hey, done. So you were able to step away from that, so that probably has helped your perception a lot.
Well, my brother-in-law was just telling me that McDonald's has introduced, I think what he calls it a fresh burger, and they're claiming that every item in it has never been frozen, like the patty,
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Whatever,
it's probably
I don't
$9.
know exactly what that means, but
there's no wood shavings and the meat.
Yeah, probably that's in there too. Yeah,
no paper pulp in the bun. It's awesome.
So Scott, you mentioned your wife. How long have you been married?
I think we're like 30 years now.
Wow.
We've been together. 20 years we've been married, something like that.
And does Paula indulge in the fast food? I think was going to be
She's way more into fast food than I am.
Way more. Anything is more than
she's had one beef and cheddar in 30 years.
True. No, she'll go get it when she's in a rush and all that, and she sees the ads and the pictures, and I want that. But she resists too.
Do you have kids?
No, we're child-free.
Maybe that made it easier too.
But but it's not a militant thing with you. It's not like, I'm not going to eat fast food, and you're going to tell your wife you shouldn't eat fast food.
You're not trying to stick it to the man,
right?
Well, I probably mentioned it to her, but she's got her own mind.
Good for you. That's why you've been married so long.
Will she try to do her fast food runs when you're not in the vehicle, or will you often be a passenger or have to do the ordering?
Oh, yeah, she mainly, like, if she's going to work and she's late, she'll grab something on the way to work, one of those deals. Or,
now, do you cook, Scott?
She doesn't, buy it and bring it home and put it on the table and eat it, generally.
So do you...
I find the wrappers in the car.
She doesn't even try to hide the evidence.
Do you cook, Scott?
I think she resists quite a bit, I think.
You seem like you would cook. You probably cook a lot yourself, right?
Well, not as much as I should, probably, but
Yeah. And does Paula also cook?
She's more picky about what she eats, so she likes to cook it better than I
do. Gotcha.
Well, that's nice. You could think she could just be a fast food junkie, and then you'd really be up a creek having to cook everything.
Well, that would be a problem. Yeah.
Now, what kind of? Now you don't have to tell me. You mentioned when you were talking earlier, you're retired on disability. Are you in good health now? And have you been in good health?
Well, not as good a health as I hope to be in. No.
Can we?
I'm asking, and
Can
listen,
we share the fire
good,
story,
really.
the fire analogy?
But I'd have been much worse health than if I had not taken care of myself.
right.
Well, how much of you think of your situation, your health challenges, is just related to that's a tough life, the farming and field and getting it off the tractor and hauling boxes? I mean, is that?
I think genetics is a huge part.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I have a lot of arthritis type problems. My grandfather was in a wheelchair when he was 54 years old.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
From osteoarthritis. At least that's what the diagnosis was then. So
Yeah.
I'm not in a wheelchair yet, so I'm years ahead of him.
Right, light years, yeah.
So, I mean, but I kind of joke with people. I always say, well, I thought brown rice and radical politics was going to protect me, and it kind of let me down.
You thought you were inoculated.
No, I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I couldn't believe it. And my doctor couldn't believe it.
And I assume you're not overweight.
A little bit, but I'm not morbidly obese or anything.
Right.
Is there some diabetes in your family tree?
Well, my father supposedly had so-called borderline diabetes, but in those days, people didn't get a blood test every year.
Right.
Yeah. And the standards have changed too. They're
different,
haven't they? As far as the levels that they'll diagnose you as diabetic. Versus
Sure, I would think
like
so.
cholesterol.
Yeah.
Well, we've
Sure.
lowered those quite a bit too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you attribute that to? Every time I see this guy, I never saw him drink a soda.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
even a
Well,
candy
he's obviously
bar.
eating healthy. He was active. His farmer for 25 years.
I definitely liked eating sweets, and I probably ate too many sweets.
Oh, okay.
But I was relatively active. I don't know. I think, again, like genetics are part of it. And I've thought a lot about this. One of the new theories in diabetes stuff is that if you can take each risk factor, and maybe when two of them are together, that they synergize each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be a really long discussion to talk about that. But, to say like one thing with my diabetes educator, she thinks the form of starch in rice is really not good. And it's not a white rice, brown rice. It's all rice.
Mm-hmm.
Is not good for diabetics. But then the question is, well, why did these rice-eating cultures not get diabetes?
No history of diabetes in Japan, right?
Yeah, the theory is that when they started eating saturated fat from prosperity, that those things synergized each other, and that made the diabetes thing, develop.
Right. The rice on its own wasn't doing it, but something changed how the rice affected you. Right. I'm type 1, and my endocrinologist is a real bookwormy, researchy kind of guy, and he's just been in the last couple of years looking at, like you said, genetics, of course, as they've always looked at, but he's looking at treating each diabetic and looking at what affects your blood sugar adversely might not affect mine quite as adversely. It's always been this thing of we treat diabetics as just kind of one thing, and everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's physiological makeup is a little bit different. He said, I think the way he explained it to me was like, if a paper airplane won't fly and a jet plane won't fly, and you put jet fuel in the jet plane to make it fly, well, jet fuel's not going to make the paper airplane fly. There's another reason it's not flying. So it's interesting, but it certainly is interesting to me how different foods affect my blood sugar as opposed to my boss here at the radio station, who's also diabetic type 1, and it doesn't affect him the same, and exercise is different. So it's very interesting, and food is a huge part of that, So I'm shocked to hear that you have type 2.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't happy about it.
You were not very, I bet you were shocked as well.
Right.
So now I understand you might be familiar that Rohnert Park, that's the headquarters for Amy's Foods, a health food conglomerate, that they have a fast food, that they have a fast food drive-through.
I think I just heard that. I want to go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I did hear that, though. I think I did see that somewhere. They just opened it, right?
I believe it's been there for maybe a year or two. My brother-in-law's vegan, and he said he went there and ate, and he said it was pretty delicious.
Yeah.
Now, will you eat like the Impossible Burgers and those type of, those? Well, you're not vegan, so take that back. But that's a restaurant. That's a restaurant food. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think partly living out here in the rural area, part of that's helped me is that I don't see all these incredible food choices. Like when I go over to Santa Rosa, I don't know if you know what Santa Rosa is like, but like everything's there. It's like San Francisco North. And I look at these bakeries and these restaurants and these grocery stores, and I go, man, this would be really hard to live over here.
Come to Reno. We got a buffet about every 20 blocks. And fast food every 10 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah.
So let me ask you this. I'll let you get out of here. We're going to let you get out of here in a few minutes. And this is sort of a maudlin question, but I want to ask you because it's interesting to me to think about this. If let's
Don't
say,
get too maudlin. This is supposed to be an comedy-based podcast.
I always think about this, and mine changes all the time. And I've thought about this for years, and I always like to ask this question. And I didn't get to ask Molly Schuyler, our competitive eater, because I forgot. So I don't want to forget to ask Sky. Let's say for some reason you're going to choose your last meal. Not that you would ever be in trouble or in prison. But
you're in San Quentin. You're on death row.
Right,
you accidentally ran someone over the tractor.
That's pretty maudlin.
You had a diabetic episode.
So what would you choose? What would be what are your favorite foods, Sky? What would you want for your last meal if you could have anything you wanted?
Oh man, and I get one choice only. Or I get
like an entree and a dessert. A couple
appetizer,
things.
entree,
Steak
dessert.
And lobster, whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Throw in a soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, this is a cheese quesadilla and half melted ice cream.
Okay. You are one of my favorites now. I love the half melted ice cream. You got to make it like a soup almost.
No one wants to be trying to chisel it out of that container in the freezer.
You can't fully taste it.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
What's your go-to flavor?
It's changed over the years, but I think I am coming around to vanilla.
Yeah. As I get older, I like the vanilla more.
Yeah.
Well,
getting old.
The interview was anything but vanilla, dude. This is awesome.
Very interesting. Obviously, you probably, not to crap on any of our other guests, but I would say you're probably the most intelligent person we've had on.
Hey, I don't hang out with dummies.
Let me tell you the food thing. I've been studying bean pies.
Wait,
bean, B-E-A-N, pies.
Yeah.
And it's a long story about how it came to my mind, but it turns out it's a special food that was promoted for black Muslims. And the Prophet Elijah Muhammad. Muhammad Ali supposedly demanded to have it on the table in his training camps.
Bean pie.
Yeah, bean pie.
What is that? What exactly? Is it just like it sounds?
More or less. I mean, I haven't made any yet.
Right.
And I don't remember eating one. I remember them being offered for sale in Berkeley in about 1970. But it's really like a pumpkin pie, more or less. There's a few variations, but it's like a pumpkin pie where you use pureed, typically navy beans instead of pumpkin.
Okay, so you're not eating them in the bean form as a pureed form, almost like a hummus or something.
Like a custard. Yeah, but it's sweet. It's got sugar in it.
I was going to say it's got a little sugar in there. That's not savory. It's sweet, right? And is it? It's like
you and Dave can't have any.
It's sweet like a pumpkin pie. I mean, it's definitely a dessert food.
Interesting.
Was it sold as an entree or as a dessert item?
No, I think a dessert item.
Bean pie. I'm going to have to look into it.
Item. Yeah.
I have to do a little research now.
Well, and it's really, amazing. And actually, I guess I was just reading this afternoon that Elijah Muhammad was really promoting navy beans, in particular the white beans, as being, a particularly, healthful food.
You think you would have been more into the black bean. I'm sorry, I know it's a cheap joke. Not the white
right.
bean.
One might think, yeah.
Well, maybe he was in the Navy.
So anyway, there's a little food trivia thing.
Admiral Honorable Prophet Elijah.
That's right. Yes, the Honorable Admiral.
Well, we want an update in 6 months or so how the bean pie search is going, right. And if you end up cooking some, I want to come over and eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring a slice back for Dave, or
there you go.
We'll do a show out there in California.
You, yeah.
I'll bring him out.
Yeah, great. All right.
Sky, it was a real pleasure. Again, what interesting conversation, man, and I give you a lot of respect for treating your body the way that you should. I have not done that in my life, and you've inspired me a little bit.
And tell Paula thanks for not corrupting you and letting you follow your path of fast food freedom.
Well, every day, just do it a little better.
That's right. It doesn't have to be a 180. You could do little bits and pieces,
That's
right?
That's my new slogan. Every day, just a little bit better.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome talking to you. Well, this concludes episode, we think, 9.
Episode 9-ish.
That's been Sky Hoyt, former farmer, former professor, man about healthy eating, and a good guy. So thank you guys for listening.
Yep.
And
Mark, tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Find Mark Yaffe, www.laughwithmark.com. Dave Mancarelli, your website and your podcast, please.
I quit after episode 8 of my podcast.
Well, you can just keep replaying it over and over.
But you can find me at davemencarelli.com. That's MENCARELLI.
Hold on, I got to get a pen. That's a long name.
I should have changed my last name.
Just davem.com.
Couldn't I have just been Corelli or something else? I couldn't. My mother mother's maiden name is Smith. I don't know why I just didn't do that. But yeah, you can find me out there if you're looking for me, all the places I beg for attention. So
And look for Sky Hoyt at a farmer's market
at a
or
farmer's market near
a farm table to fresh gathering in Northern California.
you won't find them at a Dairy Queen, that's for sure.
All right. Thank you. Signing off, episode 9.